Lampard's with us, Frank. Welcome along. We weren't expected to spend the evening with you, but we thought you'd be with us the whole evening, not mainly over there in the dugout. Isn't life strange?
Very strange. I can't say I'm disappointed. Sorry, lads, in the best possible way. But no, I'm delighted to be here and doing my job.
Well, Frank, take us back to that moment when you were told. We saw you at the Liverpool game. Was it in the stadium after? Was there a phone call at home? Talk us through that moment, because it must have been amazing for you.
It was amazing, really. It was a big surprise. Didn't expect it. Escalated happened the next day after the Liverpool game, pretty quickly. Easy decision for me, if I'm honest, because obviously it's a club so close to me. We all know that. Been here before as a coach. So I suppose the transition of work probably easy for me than maybe others that didn't know anything about the place. I know pretty much half the squad. I know the training ground. I know the club. I know what the fans want. So for me, it was a great opportunity.
Was there a knee slide? Me and Cody were saying celebration-wise. What was it like, knee slide in the front room? Or
I'll be honest. I was sitting in my front room in my shorts and t-shirt watching Netflix. Can I say that?
Netflix and chill.
Yeah, on my own. And I got the call. And no, listen. I suppose. It was a big surprise, but it's also a big decision for me because I'm very dedicated to my career. I want to be a good coach. That doesn't mean you're Chelsea manager for the rest of your life. It doesn't work that simply. But the opportunity when it came was a huge deal for me.
No, it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic, and congratulations. I've been sub for a few people in England, but I've never been sub for Frank Lampard. I don't mind being sub for you tonight.
I'll tell you what, if you're my sub,
then, up there.
No, well, if you're my sub, then you'll be doing a better job than me anyway. So no problem with that.
Can you tell us what you found when you went back in? And I think what we'd all find interesting is the questions that you asked to try and understand very quickly what had been going on the last few months.
Well, there's a lot of questions, to be honest, Jake, and it's not easy to get them done in 1 or 2 days or 5-6 days because it's a big squad, and you want to get into every individual there and find out a bit about what's going on. I'm probably fortunate, Coley and I, a bit about this. We went through that as Chelsea players, so I understood that, and I understood the great changes that we had with managerial change mid-season, and the moments people like Robbie Di Matteo being very personal, having conversations. So I think my job was to quickly try and get pretty personal and try and get a reaction. I think a lot of things in football, of course, are tactical, but a lot of things are mental. And when you're on the back of bad results, we all know the feeling. The lads want to pick up, they need help, they need support more than anything. So we've tried to offer that in the days we've been in. Very good.
Frank, massive game tonight. How good is it to have Thiago Silva back in the fold? Has he done enough training? Is he looking good?
I hope so. He's an incredible professional. Yeah. That's why he's in such good shape at this stage of his career. So there were no doubts for me if he's fit. The only thing was to have that conversation to see that he was fit. And I think at this level, we always want to develop players. We want young players. We want to see these things. But in a game of this high level, players like Thiago and Golo, obviously, in the team, are a huge lift for us. They're leaders all in their own different ways. So for a game of this magnitude, then it was crucial for us.
It's incredible his level of performance at his age, 38, to keep going. Did that surprise you that when he's come back in, he's just gone straight into it?
No, it didn't surprise me. I remember him signing. He came when I was first at the club, and we had a lot of conversations. And I had complete respect for him. But the biggest thing was how he looks after himself, how he lives, how he trains, how he affects others, his dedication. So I'm fortunate in terms of timing. When I got there, he was at the back end of his rehab, and no one will do rehab to the point like he does it. Right. So again, when you've seen him in training, the level's there. It's obviously how many minutes he can play. Yeah. We'll have to monitor that one as the game goes on.
It suits him in a 3, though, doesn't it?
It
absolutely suits him playing in the 3.
It does. Yeah. It certainly suits him. I think he can control the game there, see it, in possession, out of possession, obviously having players on the side of him, particularly with the threats that we all know Real Madrid have.
And tonight, is it about getting through 15 minutes at a time, really? It's a bit 2 ties, obviously, but this is a tough one to come here, obviously, against this team. Is it like 15 minutes and 15? Is that what you're looking at? Get through these spells? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, back at the bridge, it could be a completely different story. If you go back with a really good result, that's what tonight's all about.
Sure, absolutely. I spoke to the players before we left, and I spoke about it in terms of game management, in terms of the little details, but also the mindset. If things happen, what happens if things happen in the game? This is a 2-legged game. Been lucky enough to experience them as a player. But we can't let something throw us in one of those 15-minute spells. We just have to keep dealing with them as the game goes on.
Frank, how do you prepare for a game of this size, this magnitude, a stadium like this against Real Madrid, the holders of the competition, players like Vinicius Junior in frightening form, Benzema? How do you prepare your side coming in short notice?
Well, I think we worked on the training ground yesterday. We can't do anything too physical. We've got too many games, so it's more about positional and distances, particularly defensively. I think you have to be on top of your game defensively against these. This is obvious, but the flip of that is, to be good defensively, you've got to be good with the ball, because you cannot give Real Madrid 90 minutes of having the ball. So we worked on both sides of that with some good meetings over the last couple of days. Tried to keep the message pretty simple and trust in the players, because they're a really, really talented squad. I think they need to be told that, but at this level of game, talent is not enough.
More talent than when you left?
It's a hard call, because I left probably a different group that maybe had talents and experience, people at different stages in their careers, and obviously they went on to great success. I think that we're in a different time, so it's hard to say. The players have to, not say have to prove that, but you only develop, you only show yourself here. It's good to work on the training ground, but here is the time.
Listen, we are going to have to let you go. As much as we'd love you here all evening, you can't do two jobs tonight. But before you go, just going to look at the starting 11 you've gone with this evening.
Okay.
You haven't gone with your top scorer of the season, the man who scores in big games, Kai Havertz. Just give us your thinking behind the attack. They're going with João Felix and Sterling up front.
Well, I think the balance of the team for me feels that we have to match a Real Madrid midfield. We've got three world-class players in there. So I felt that we're strong in that area of the pitch. So going with two up front, I think with Raheem and João, they both have great counter-attacking abilities, like speed, can handle the ball, can get us up the pitch. So it wasn't an easy choice for me, and it's absolutely a game where the output's going to be big, on and off the ball. So there will be changes in game. We'll have to do so. People like Kai, Mudryk on the bench, or midfield players waiting on the bench, wing backs, people that in those really energetic positions are going to have to come in and help the team.
Brilliant. Look, thanks for joining us. And I loved what you said at the start. I'm back doing my job. We saw a smile on your face when you walked in. I mean, there are a few better places in the world to do your job than this place, right?
No, you lot have got the easy life. Go back in there and get it.
We know that. That's why they're standing here. Thank you very much. We'll let you go.
Cheers, lads.
Good luck, Frank.
Thanks.
Top man.
See you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Very best of luck this evening. Thank you, mate. Nice to see you, mate. You take care. Thank you. I really enjoyed actually what you said about, I feel like this is where I belong. And how can you say no to this chance? I mean,
You can't. That's why I asked him about what was the feeling like, what happened when you were told. And I think that speaking to Frank and knowing him like I do, that this is where he wants to be. He wants to be managing. He wants to be in a dugout, dictating things from there. He's obviously been a great player, but he'd love to replicate that as a manager from that position. And you obviously need the opportunity. He's got a great opportunity now. We were talking before, weren't we?
Right.
What does this do? These games, next game, just end of the season. What can happen? He could either come back and stand with us because he hasn't done well enough, or he bounces into another job because he does so well here. So it's a fantastic opportunity for him.
What happens if he does win this trophy?
He don't get a job.
He still doesn't get the job.
I don't think he'd get a job here. I think it'd be
It's
like
interesting though. If they go all the way up to win.
I disagree. If you win the trophy, I just think with his connection with the club and the fans, absolutely the owners, I think they'd have no option but to give him the job.
That's what I'm thinking.
But we have seen Chelsea in the last 20 years do some interesting things.
Yeah.
So I just think, like you said, Ree, what an opportunity for him. And Frank, we all know him. He's a competitor. He's always going to gravitate to there and competing and trying to win.
and he knows what comes with the job. As he said a few moments ago, he said, I know it's not a job for life. When you're the Chelsea manager, it doesn't last forever. And in many ways, as Glenn will testify, that is life as a football manager. No matter what you do in the game, you can lose.
Might be a different outcome.
Mindset,
I think so.
tactics.
I think so. Of course, Real Madrid will have to win, and Real Madrid have got the big boys out tonight. They rested people at the weekend. They've gone with the team that beat Barcelona 4-0 at the Camp Nou.
Was that a surrender flag for La Liga?
Yes. Once they lost in La Liga a couple of weeks ago to Barcelona, they played well, but they lost late on to a Frank Kessie goal 2-1. That was it. The league was done. They rested players against Rayo Vallecano when Benzema got his hat-trick. They then went with the strong team, beat Barcelona 4-0. Benzema got another hat-trick. But they rested players at the weekend when they lost 3-2 to Villarreal here. Big boys are out tonight. Camavinga's gone to left-back. Rodrigo, Vinicius, Benzema. So a three-pronged attack up front. So different type of opposition for Chelsea to face this evening.
What about Carlo Ancelotti?
I saw that he's under pressure. Carlo is never under pressure.
Well, his eyebrow comes up.
It's just whether, Real Madrid's won the Super Cup, European Super Cup, of course, at the beginning of the season. They won the World Club trophy. They're in the final of Copa del Rey against Osasuna, which they're big favourites to win. Yes, they've lost the league and they got knocked out in the Super Copa in Saudi Arabia. This is the big one.
That's
the
pressure.
Champions League is the big one. But Carlo is never under pressure. It's just whether Real Madrid want to refresh the team by bringing in a new manager.
So if he doesn't
not.
win the Champions League, he could be off.
I think he may leave, yes. I think he may, but he's not. He won't go as, he's sacked. He'll go with a huge amount of applause and people adore him, and he'll be sort of moved aside to another job. And whether Alvaro Arbeloa comes in or Raúl is number 2, probably not Raúl, maybe Xabi Alonso is doing wonders at Bayer Leverkusen, maybe Pochettino, but there's a number of people in the background trying to look at this job because, of course, it's an amazing job.
Who's your favourite? Who do you think would be best equipped?
Well, Raúl's manager of Real Madrid Castilla, the second team that Zidane was manager when he took the job. I don't necessarily, and they're doing well, but I don't necessarily think his relationship with Florentino is good. So it might be Arbeloa, who's below Raúl in a younger age team, or Xabi, who's, as I said, who's working wonders in the German league with Bayer Leverkusen. I think the 6th in the Bundesliga at the moment. So maybe him. Poch is always there as well, worked at Espanyol, speaks, of course, English and Spanish. So there's a number of candidates, but, I mean, if Carlo wins this, he's still got 1 more year left in his contract.
Well, Carlo has got the Midas touch, and if he doesn't get the respect, maybe he'll get an offer he can't refuse.
Everybody loves Carlo.
See, it's made their way out behind us. We could hear the whistles and the boos from some of the fans who've made their way in here early. Look, Glenn, it was really interesting hearing Steve talk there about the position that Carlo Ancelotti's in here. Of course, like, he is always going to be a legendary manager of this football club, but they're still thinking, of course, and talking about the future. I just wonder whether we give enough credit to him. We talk about him as a great man manager. I wonder whether we talk enough about him as a tactician and the decisions that he makes on the football field.
Oh, he's a brilliant tactician. I mean, he is a great man manager. Joe will tell you that. He's worked with him. But no, for me, he's one of the best that's ever been. And he gives that calmness about himself. On the sideline, he's really calm. You imagine that in the dressing room, on the training pitch. But no, some of the stuff he does, he knows what he wants from his team. And, when the chips are down as a player, played against him, when the chips were down, he dug in, and he'll dig in as a manager. He's got a nice sort of facade of he's a nice guy and Mr. Nice Guy, but there's another side to him. You have to have that at the very top. But tactically, he knows exactly what he's doing. What he's done with this team is quite incredible. Last year, to get them through like they did. And a lot of that would have been down to, obviously, it's the players on the pitch, but the manager has to pick those players and have that little bit of sniff for the blend of the team so they can go out and perform like they did.
He's a great tactician, but he's got a lovely human side. I had 6 operations in my career, and he's the only manager that rung me before my operation, just an hour before I was going under. Ray Wilkins rung me and said, I've got the gaffer on the phone. He said, listen, Joe, don't worry, be positive. You're a big part of what we're doing, and we'll wait for you when you're ready. And then he rung me again when I woke up, and this was while he was travelling to a game, if I remember. And none of the other managers would have thought to do that. So talk about man management. Everyone goes, well, what is man management? It's little things like that he does to everyone around, and he gets a little 5% off everyone, a little 1% off someone there, a little bit more off there, and he's brilliant. But tactically, you're right, we don't appreciate him because he doesn't push himself in front of his team. He stands back and lets his team do the talking. But you'll see little tweaks he's done right the way through his managerial career. You don't do what he's done without being an unbelievable tactician.
But look what he's done with Camavinga. That's a perfect example of how he's changed the trajectory of that guy's career.
Yeah, young centre midfielder, been flying, coming from the French league, comes in with a big price tag for his age, big reputation as well, and comes in and says, a lot of young players sit there and go, I'm a centre midfielder and that's me. He's moved him at left back here against Barcelona, performed unbelievably well. Some great defensive clips here, but also with the ball. But some players will just shut down and go, I don't want to play there, and sulk. It's because of the manager, the way he probably delivers the message that he's going to play him there, that the player doesn't feel like that, it doesn't get too emotional, and he knows that at some point, I'm going to get my chance back in centre midfield, which he has. We saw him at Anfield dominate the game and play so well. This kid will be a future top-level centre midfielder. This is great education.
These clips, he looks like he's played left-back all his life, and he looks like he's a 28-year-old in his peak. He's going to have some off days if he plays in there. He'll be playing there tonight, and he's got to be tested. But he was magnificent in this game. I did this game last week. And everything he did, his defensive positions. Look at this for a change of pace as well. Rafinha, who's difficult to mark. Look how he stays with him, times the tackle to perfection. He's going to end up in midfield, but what a player to play there.
It's all about education. It's understanding other positions. It's a great education period for him to really get himself a bit more knowledgeable on the game in other positions. So when you're in other areas of the pitch, you can then appreciate that left-back area or other people in other areas. And it's just a great part of his game
Joe,
for the future will be great.
Joe mentioned something off air. We were talking about these youngsters nowadays, how they can play in different positions. We saw John Stones going into Man City last night in that midfield area. You know, and there's a lot of these youngsters who've played all, like the Dutch did when I was playing back in the day. They were brought up to play every position on the pitch.
Do you know, and that's credit to the academy. It's right, and it shows you the evolution of football because, you know, John Stone, apart from Rio, there wasn't many centre-halves who I played with in the particularly in the early stage of my career you would even think about putting him in midfield playing with a back to goal. No, but nowadays the education right from the age of 6, they can move, they can play. It's just if they got the attitude like Camavinga, they'll just adapt to it and be fine.
And I do want to talk about Eden Militao as well. If we're talking about the Camavinga decision being all about tactics, Militao and the way that he has managed to turn him into a sort of really responsible, confident player. I mean, there was a lot of question marks when he first came. He had some tough times as well, but you can now rely on him.
Yeah, and I questioned it straight away when I saw him, but it's down to youth. You could see the potential, you could see the raw materials with this player in terms of like his physical attributes, his aggression, etc. But he was a bit, he had no patience in his defending. He was a bit erratic at times, but that's youth. But again, Ancelotti, the club, seeing that and then having the time and the patience of him, which patience isn't afforded to many people, but now you're seeing a reliable, aggressive, assertive defender and who's gaining experience week in, week out.
And he's aggressive, Rio, at the right time.
Yeah.
Whereas before he was going in blind, he was going down the legs of somebody. A little bit like Romero does at Tottenham.
Yeah.
Romero's got to learn to play like Militao. He's changed his game. He's more patient and he's just got those instincts as a defender. But now he seems to have channeled them in the right way.
Yeah, he's mastered the art of that, like that fire and ice. You know, like to bring that aggression when needed and to have that cool head. And it'd be interesting, Rio, because we've watched him many times. I never thought. Did you watch the centre half and did you foresee him becoming this complete centre half?
No, I thought it would be. I thought there was there's potential. It's whether he can switch from being that emotional kind of defender who's quite erratic and just wants to explode in a situation, rather than adding that patience. I think great defenders have that aggressiveness and want to be on the front foot and want to defend quickly and early, but also the ability to step back in situations, to be a bit patient and see things and scan the situation before making crazy decisions. And he's been really good and effective at doing that lately.
Very nice. Well, as you may have heard while we were talking, indeed, Real Madrid have made their way out. They're over there warming up at the moment. And if Chelsea are going to do something this evening, it's got to be something special against this incredibly talented Real Madrid side. And of course, the man in charge, Frank Lampard, would love to get past tonight, make it through the semi-finals.
The squad I've worked with probably before. Some new players, some younger players, some developing players. But there are things for me which to help me get to work quickly are the same. The training ground, what I know, a lot of staff behind the scenes, the players that I do know, the expectations of the club, what the fans want.
Como vieron todos, hubo un cambio de entrenador, no es una buena temporada globalmente para Chelsea, pero sabemos que la Champions League eso es diferente.
The underdog tag is not a bad one. I think it doesn't mean too much, but also you can tap into that. You know, there's no greater feeling or idea than trying to prove people wrong.
Sabemos la rivalidad que lo representa el Madrid, que fue el último campeón, pero sabemos los jugadores que tienen. Pero nosotros confiaremos en nosotros, en nuestro trabajo, haremos lo mejor posible para poder pasar de fase.
Carlo, it was one of the most pleasurable periods of my career working under him as a man and as a manager. What he's achieved in his career is, you know, it just ranks him up there with the best of all time.
Es un partido muy importante para mí, para mi carrera, uno de los más importantes, así que nada, trataré de estar concentrado, disfrutando con lo que se merece el partido, de disfrutarlo de esa manera porque no deja de ser un partido de fútbol.
There's a lot of work to be done, and for me, it's not unfinished business. It's just maybe enjoying and being determined, having the opportunity to manage in a quarter-final. I do my absolute best.
El fútbol me puso acá, la verdad que estoy agradecido a Chelsea que me ha dado la oportunidad de venir. Y estos partidos demandan mucho y nada, me siento preparado, así que nada, disfrutaré al máximo. Trataremos de dar lo mejor El equipo está bien, estamos confiados, haremos nuestro mejor trabajo.
Well, it's a night where keeping control of the football is going to be vital, and that's exactly what Rio is doing right now. Are you not going to give that back?
One of my sons just texted me and said, can you bring it home, please, Dad? I'm trying. I'm going to try.
It's actually beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Let's talk about the importance tonight for Enzo Fernandez in that midfield. I mean, if you're going to test yourself against an imperious midfield, then the Real Madrid team is about as good as it gets. It's a really important night for him to stand strong, isn't it?
If you spend 100 million on a midfielder, you're buying him for nights like this. You know, you've got the old stagers, Modric and Kroos. This man's is the young pretender. He's already a world champion. He's an outstanding footballer. He got, you know, when Chelsea fans bought him, I don't think they fully knew what they was getting. He's a great reader of the game. He snaps into tackles. He's got great balance. He can play off both feet. You know, here he wins it forward and he just outside of it, he gets played. He's really got Chelsea playing through that midfield. I love that. This is the pass I love, Glenn. Flat, strike through. He always plays forward, don't he?
He does. He looks forward and he can play it forward as well. And in that position, he gets time on the ball because he's in that holding role. But for me, Joe, I think he could become an 8. I think there's more to his game. I think that you will see him as he in his Chelsea. He does this job great. That's a lovely ball, but I think there's more to him. I think I'd like to see him in and around the edge of the box, in and around the D, getting goals, getting strikes. I think he's got that in him, and I think that'll come.
Joe, we were up West Ham, weren't we? Chelsea played away there, and the goal that they scored there was down to his passing on the edge of the box. You're just saying, Glenn, where he's got that creative spark that he's got. He can engineer something out of nothing, and he's got that. But I think he's got different assets to his game that he can play equally well as a holding midfielder or as the 8.
Well, with Kante back in the side as well, that's what I'm saying. You've got the best, for me, the best holding player in the world. He's like having 2 midfield players.
And a manager who knows a thing or two about being a midfielder as well.
Absolutely. So I can see him getting further up the pitch a little bit and actually playing those balls from 10, 15 yards to those strikers.
And I think that area is the most important area today. That midfield area in these big games, getting control of the game or being able to be composed under pressure. You've got arguably the best midfield in the world in them 3, Valverde, Kroos and Modric. The experience there, you've got to nullify that threat.
Talking of great players, did you notice when the ball came over how Glenn just dropped the shoulder, almost like instinct, wasn't it?
That's because he got a bad back.
Ever. You never lose it. Right, we're going to take a very quick